Viewers of the Redmen TV, hello and welcome to this Football Manager experiment video. My name is Ben, otherwise known as DoctorBenjyFM on YouTube. I am a Football Manager YouTuber, and with the release of Football Manager 2018, Paul from the Redmen TV said to me, Ben, do you want to do some experiments on Liverpool this season? And we're going to kick things off with this one, and if you enjoy it, hopefully we'll get to do a few more as well. What we're going to do then is take a look at Liverpool season in 2017-18 and see how they did in the cup competitions, whether Jurgen Klopp survived, league finishes, top players in terms of goal scorers and assists, as well as the season of OXLADE-CHAMBERLAINS, whose debut year was much discussed on his arrival. So let's kick things off then. Let's look at our first simulation and see what occurred during it. Now, we're going to do 10 of these, and I'm going to give you some averages towards the end, but let's kick things off with this first one then. Liverpool Football Club came 7th in the league. Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal and Manchester City all finishing in the top 4 places, and according to this simulation, Bournemouth with a very good finish, a 6th place and above Liverpool. And you might be looking at that thinking, that's not what we want to see come the end of the year, and hopefully we don't see it come the end of the year. That's not what anybody wants to see come the end of the year. But you can see Liverpool season wasn't as straightforward as you might imagine. FM18 came in, who's currently a coach at Liverpool, and took over from Jurgen Klopp in the February. Interestingly then, the season went two ways. Liverpool didn't qualify for the Champions League group stages, as I'm sure that led to the downfall of Jurgen Klopp not being in that competition. That did, though, mean that Liverpool then aced the Europa League, went through it very, very easily, and ended up in the Europa League final against Juventus, in which they won the game 2-1. Firmino, Mane and Salah causing Juve all sorts of problems and getting the win. I don't know where the game was. I'm sorry that I don't know where that was. But essentially, it was a really good night in Europe against Juventus. A team that I think some people wouldn't expect Liverpool to be able to beat, even on Football Manager. Higuain, Dybala, Marquisio. They've got some really good players. An extremely good defence as well. But Liverpool found a way to break it down and got themselves the win. Only 2 shots on target in the game. And that gave us 2 goals. In Football Manager terms, that's FM in them a little bit. But we'll take that all the way to the bank. And we'll log that in the history books. So, not too bad. Klopp didn't survive though, and you saw our league position of 7th, not that good. Would you take a poor league position to win the Europa League? I mean, Manchester United fans had to answer that question last year. Would you have taken the same thing, knowing that you still qualify for the Champions League with the win in that competition? The Carabao Cup didn't go so well, a 4th round exit in that, and the FA Cup, a similar story really. A 5th round exit in a replay to Nottingham Forest isn't ideal at all. We'll look through some player stats and whatnot a little bit later on, but first things first, let's see then, average position-wise. They finished 7th in the first simulation. How do they get on in the rest of them? Now, the reason for doing this is doing 10 simulations gives you a far better idea of the averages come the end. You could just do one and say, well, there you are, that's how Liverpool got on, but I don't think that's necessarily fair. I wanted to see how we did across lots of different saves, so that's what we're going to do. Thank you to the guys that helped me with that as well. Their names are now below, and let's crack on then, and let's see how Liverpool did across the other 10 seasons. So, if we bring the Premier League season predicted points and positions up, you can see that throughout the simulations, Liverpool didn't have the best time of it. Only one 4th place finish. I'm sure your eyes were drawn to that immediately. 7th, 6th, 5th, 5th, 6th, 6th, 5th, 6th, 4th, and 6th. And part of that plays into how Jurgen Klopp got on as manager. Points tally-wise, it wasn't the best either. 70 points was the best, and the lowest, a 57 in the very last simulation. Actually got us a 6th place finish. We finished lower, but with a lesser points tally, still finished in a higher position. It was a little bit strange. That gave us some averages then. 5.6 as an average position, and the average points tally is 64.3. The last time we had anything close to that, 64 points, was the 2002-2003 season, in which we finished 5th. So again, not good enough even then for a top 4 finish. So if we can compare our averages, you can see 5.6 puts us kind of in the middle of what we've been achieving in recent years. Of course, 7th, 8th, 6th place finishes of what we've been dealt with. We had that, of course, 2nd season under Brendan Rodgers, and the 4th place finish last year with Jurgen Klopp. And points tally-wise, again, if you kind of took the averages from our previous 5 seasons, you'd get not too far away from what we've actually got here. It's not great, obviously, and of course, this is Football Manager. This is a simulation, and even in one simulation, we did get into the top 4, and we'll focus on that one in just a moment after we've looked through some of the managerial reigns outside of Jurgen Klopp, who most of the time, folks, didn't survive the season. So let's take a look at that. So as you can see, Jurgen Klopp on this save, currently unemployed, looking for a club. I'm sure it won't last too long to be that way. And FM18 came in, who's, as I say, he's a Liverpool coach. He's come in as interim manager and done a pretty good job to get Liverpool back into the Champions League. It's a minimum expectation, hopefully, these days. But it didn't stand Jurgen Klopp in good stead for future simulations. So let's take a look through then and see how he got on. If we bring the graphic up on the screen, you can see, does Jurgen Klopp survive the season? And more often than not, no, he doesn't. Pepe in line as you've seen then, comes in that first year. George Jesus comes over in 2 simulations, the 2nd and the 7th, and both times in the sort of the back end of the season, well, I say middle part of the season, I guess, December and March. March is probably the back end of the season, right? Jurgen Klopp, though, as you see, did survive 4 seasons, but was sacked at the end of 2 of them and saw out the sort of the project throughout and would continue in simulations 4 and 5. You then move down a little bit further and you can see at the end of the 8th simulation, Luis Enrique, former Barcelona manager, comes in on the 13th of May. Leonardo Jardim, the highly rated Monaco manager currently, he's doing some great things over there with Monaco, comes in on the 23rd of December. What a time to sack Klopp, by the way. Sorry, I should say these dates are when Klopp is sacked. The managers ordinarily come in sort of the week after that. But yeah, Jardim comes in, and you saw previously that was the 9th simulation, the simulation in which Liverpool came 4th, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Roberto Mancini completes things. Of course, Premier League experience. 9th of December sees him sacked too. And yeah, let's look at that 9th simulation. It was a 4th place finish, the only one we had. And let's see then, how did Leonardo Jardim turn things around at Liverpool? So there you are then, Leonardo Jardim was the manager of Liverpool, took over from Jurgen Klopp, and as we saw, came 4th in the league. And you can see from the league season then, Manchester City topped the tree, Tottenham, Manchester United, Liverpool, as you see, 4th place, Arsenal and Chelsea both on 69 points, just a point behind Liverpool, so it was very close. And Rafa Benitez's 7th place finish with Newcastle shouldn't go missed as well. Well done to Rafa for that one. So, what did Jardim do? How did he change things round compared to Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool? We'll take a look then at a few bits and pieces. So the season as a whole, Jurgen Klopp managed to negotiate Liverpool through the Champions League, this time facing CSKA Moscow in the playoffs. You can't set it to be Hoffenheim every time. We were somewhat fortunate in the first simulation that was the case. So through the Champions League, they went and got to the knockout stages and ended up getting all the way to a semi-final. It was a 1-0 defeat to Real Madrid that finally saw Liverpool dumped out of the competition. But a semi-final placing, not too bad. And as we look at the competition progress throughout the other simulations, you'll see that's not rare within these simulations, despite the poor league finishes. Liverpool obviously been known over the years to have decent European runs, and that was the case again this time around. Poor FA Cup run again though, 3-1 defeat, Middlesbrough knocked us out of that, and the Carabao Cup is something throughout these simulations best not talking about. A 3-1 defeat to Brighton, 4th round exit, gone, stop talking about it, not good. So you can see from this then, Jardim came in and made a few sales, a few signings. Markovic went out, Danny Ward went out to Derby, Alberto Moreno went to Real Sociedad as well, £20 million fee for him, and he brought in a couple of players as well. Ryan Sessegnon, the left back that was linked with Liverpool over the summer, actually joined. Lucas, who is a defensive player from, is it Atletico Madrid? Indeed it is, came in and played a little bit, 11 appearances, not a massive appearance sort of tally for him. And Aaron from Espanyol, lots of left backs, which is quite interesting. Of course, Andrew Robertson was already at the club. Moreno was sold, but he still felt it was an area in which Liverpool needed strengthening. You can see from some of the player stats, the top goal scorer that season, Roberto Firmino, and on the assists, him and Mohamed Salah share those honours and had a really good time of it as well. It was a difficult season for Liverpool, but a 4th place finish all the same. The sad thing for us is that in terms of averages, this was the only time that happened. So we mentioned goals and assists there. Let's take a look at some of them in more detail. And if you look at the top goal scorers throughout the simulations, there on the left-hand side, Salah and Firmino with 21. Salah and Firmino dominate this list, as you can see. Tallies as high as 25 one season. I should say that these are across all competitions, the goals. And yeah, Salah and Firmino do a pretty good job. If you compare those to our top goal scorers in all competitions over previous years, it's a lot more of a mixed list, I think it's fair to say. Coutinho, of course, it was over 10 years, so it's slightly different. But Torres counts there as well, of course. Gerrard, Luis Suarez, Daniel Sturridge and Coutinho complete the list. And it was sort of back and forth. When we had a main striker, a Torres or a Suarez, you can see the tally raises quite high. Amongst some of the other goal scorers in there, Sturridge, Gerrard, Coutinho, and Count as well, the tally's slightly lower and more in tune. With Firmino and Salah, the interesting thing was in most of the simulations, they had quite similar goal tallies. They were certainly pivotal in getting goals. And I think in only one of the 10 simulations did Daniel Sturridge get double figures, which isn't ideal to see. But interesting all the same that those are the figures you get if you go throughout the league season. Salah and Firmino, of course, have both started the season pretty well. Salah especially is banging in goals for fun and is very likely to hit one of these targets, if not more so. So that's going to be exciting to see as we go forward. Let's move on to assists though, and again, it's a Brazilian domination this time. Jordan Henderson makes an appearance now and again, and these are the top assist makers again in all competitions. for Liverpool. I should quickly note, for those that are worried about it, on the right-hand side, we have the top assisters. Those are just the league. It's amazing how difficult it is to find the assists across all competitions for Liverpool players. I know. Imagine my struggle trying to find those. So you can see Gerrard dominated that most of the time in the league, and to the left are all competitions. And you can see that in all competitions, Firmino gets 16, which is actually the most on the entire list. And that was, of course, a year. If we quickly go back and look at the goal scorers, you can see he had 21 goals in that season, so he did really, really well. Salah and Henderson shared 11 assists in the simulation after that. Coutinho dominated 6 of the 10 simulations, and Firmino and Salah and Henderson share a few there as well. It's interesting to see that Liverpool have got players now that are assisting each other. There's very much a group effort in Liverpool attacks, which I think is evident in these simulations that we did. Whether that's useful, you look at some of the sides that are finishing above Liverpool in these simulations, sort of the Spurs, Manchester City, Manchester United. They've all got players that are there as goal scorers. You've got Aguero, Harry Kane, Jesus as well, of course, plays for City that now. You've got Lukaku and Ibrahimovic at Manchester United. And there's maybe a question mark there. Do Liverpool need a proper striker, a proper number 9, sort of in that Luis Suarez, Fernando Torres mould, to come in and be a force for them? You think about your former Jurgen Klopp sides. Robert Lewandowski was huge for Dortmund, and I just wonder if he's still looking for that kind of player, and whether he thinks Roberto Firmino can be that, or he's got a slightly different project at Liverpool with the players like Coutinho, Mane, Salah, and mixing them all together. Now, if we very briefly move over to cup competition progress, you can see the League Cup, FA Cup, and European competition. 4 Champions League semi-finals is the first thing that jumps out at me. Despite the poor league form throughout the saves, we've seen that Liverpool can compete on European stages, and that's really good to see. 2 Europa winners as well, and a runners up to boot, a couple of times getting to the last 16. And worth noting, always getting out of group stages, which I think is nice. League Cup, though, just let us ignore it, shall we? Together, let's all ignore it. It didn't go well this season in real life against Leicester. It hasn't gone well in any of the simulations. At least we can say it's realistic. And then in the FA Cup, winners once, runners up twice, and quite a few early exits as well. Not something really to be proud of. But yeah, European-wise, looking really good. Domestically, not so good, but I think we'd probably take it this season. I mean, which one's the best year there? It's difficult to pick, isn't it, really? I think you'd probably take maybe the 6th simulation if you had to be picky, but even then, it's not great. So then, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's debut year, and we've got appearances and substitute appearances listed, the goals he scored, the assists he had, and the amount of time he spent on the sidelines. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, if we take a quick look back at Football Manager, it gives you the injuries that he's had throughout his career, and you can see he's had quite a few that are considered major injuries, where he's missed a number of weeks or months. So I was interested to see how those affected his stats throughout some of the league seasons that we simulated through. So if we go back to our simulation screen, we can see some of the stats that we had then. Appearance-wise, he never starts more than 13 games, which I think is interesting. And when we compare that to real life, you'll see that actually Football Manager has it pretty close to reality. In the first simulation we did, that was arguably his highlight one. 5 goals, 3 assists in all competitions, and was sidelined for only a month. You can see on the sidelines, he's out for varied number of days. It's never quite consistent, which is part of the problem with Football Manager simulations, hence doing more of them is often more beneficial. You can see 4 weeks, 1 month, 8 weeks, 10 days, 2 days. Of course, we can't predict this. As we know with Daniel Sturridge, we can never really see how well injuries are going to affect someone, good or bad. For me, the standout poor season, and again, Alex, don't worry, it's all hypothetical, was the season in which he started the 13 games, had 11 substitute appearances, and only registered 1 goal with 4 assists. I think for that amount of game time, you want to see a little bit more from what is one of your attacking midfielders, or maybe wingers on occasion as well, and we didn't quite get that. If we move those to the side then, and take a look at his averages this season compared to the averages that we took across those 10 simulations, he had 7 appearances, 12 substitute appearances, 1.7 goals and 1.6 assists, and would have spent an average of 6 weeks on the sidelines. Now the season's well underway. He's not had a serious injury for Liverpool yet. He's not missed games because of this. So far this season, 3 starts under Jurgen Klopp, 9 substitute appearances, 2 goals, no assists as of yet. So we might be on track for a slightly better season from Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain compared to what we saw within the simulations. In terms of appearances though, it might not be too far away. If we just move back again, it might not be too far away from maybe like 13 starts, 11 substitute appearances. Lots of games for Liverpool this season, of course, cup competitions as well as the Champions League. So I'm sure he's going to get game time. I want him to be a success at Liverpool. The game though necessarily doesn't have him quite there. You can see from those averages, 1.7 goals and 1.6 assists based on 10 seasons isn't the greatest, but I think he'd be delighted to prove everybody wrong, and let's face it, as Liverpool fans, we hope he does. And that then is going to bring the end to our simulation. If you've got any questions about anything that happened amongst these 10 saves that you might want answering, then by all means, get involved in the comment section, ask the question, and hopefully I'll do my best to reply to them. If you enjoyed the video, of course, like the video, and if you want to see more of this, of course, let the Redmen TV know by commenting down below. It's really fun to do. Football Manager, as I say, is out now, and if you want to see more Football Manager content, come over to my channel, DoctorBenjyFM, and yeah, I'm doing all sorts of different saves this season. Some non-league stuff, some Premier League stuff as well. I'm going to quietly say I'm currently doing a save with Arsenal, and it's going very Arsenal, so that actually might intrigue you a little bit more. So that's going to bring us to the end. As I say, if you liked it, like it, and we love with care. From me, Dr. Benji, until next time, I'll see you again very, very soon with hopefully another experiment. Goodbye.